This is going to be, I feel like it's going to be a great atmosphere. Weather's supposed to be awesome, sold-out crowd, good opponent, big game. Tar Heels back after a little bit of a break. Looking forward to it.
Good kickoff time. I think this is a game people have been planning to go to for a while because when the schedule first came out, you thought, that first October game coming off a bye week, I won't have been in Kenan Stadium for a while. Tar Heels were on the road the previous game. This is one I want to go to, so I think Chapel Hill is going to be lively.
And, of course, Tar Heels are hosting Syracuse. Orange comes in 4-1, 0-1 in conference play. They lost last week to Clemson. And, I mean, quite honestly, Syracuse's first two games were absolute bludgeonings. They beat Colgate, which it was a one-sided game, Adam. It was 65-0. I think it was 51-0 at halftime. It was a one-sided affair. Colgate's getting blown out in Ivy League games, if that tells you anything. Then they played Western Michigan. Western Michigan scored a 75-yard touchdown on the second play of the game and then did not score again. The Orange looked very good in those two games. They were much better than those two teams. Then they went on the road and beat Purdue by a couple scores and looked pretty good doing it. Forced a bunch of turnovers in that game. Garrett Schrader, the quarterback, was really good in that game, particularly running the football. He rushed for nearly 200 yards from the quarterback spot in that game. Then they came back home, trailed at halftime against Army, and then whatever they did at halftime, they figured it out because all of a sudden Army's option wasn't working in the second half. Syracuse finally took advantage of some of their physical advantages that they had, particularly at the wide receiver spot. Won that game going away and then fell to Clemson last week in a game that the Orange they just didn't play very well. Dino Babers said that in his press conference earlier this week. They had two turnovers on two of their first three possessions ended in a fumble. Clemson scored touchdowns after both of them, so they were up 14-0, and Syracuse was kind of chasing the whole time after that. I think only once did Syracuse have the ball. They were either down 10 or 7, and only once from that point forward. So Clemson ended up winning that one relatively easily. And so that's how they get to 4-1. Adam, two biggest things, and I mentioned these kind of briefly on Tuesday's show. Garrett Schrader is good. A Charlotte guy, so he's from North Carolina. Yeah.
Is his dream school Carolina?
Well, this Syracuse he started at Mississippi State. So he's gone Mississippi State, Syracuse. And what has stood out to me in watching him is that you can just tell that he's older. He just looks like he's totally in control of what he is doing. He doesn't seem to get flustered very much. He seems to make smart decisions with the football, and he's really good at running the ball. And, I mean, he's their second leading rusher so far through 5 games for him. He has 340 yards and 6 touchdowns. From the quarterback spot. So he's running a fair amount. And a lot of his runs are not design runs. They are runs where the pocket breaks down, or maybe he's on the move and has the option to run or pass, and his legs are an effective weapon. He's not like the fastest dude out there, but he's big. He's hard to tackle. He's got pretty good moves. I've seen him do some spin moves out there. Like he hit the B button and spun away, and he's just he is in control of all his faculties. There was one play against Purdue where, I mean, he had such a good play action fake. And it actually happened twice in the game. Late in the game, he did it again to kind of help burn the clock. But he did this to score a touchdown where he did the play action. And, I mean, the dude for Purdue, like, he was still looking at the running back as, like, Schrader had already handed the ball back to the official. So, I mean, he had just fooled him and literally walks in. And I think you could see somebody get really excited. He made the defense look silly on that play. It was a touchdown in a road game. And Schrader just wasn't that impressed. He just kind of tossed the ball back and kept going. And not that that means that he's an excellent player or whatever, but he's just an older guy. And you see it in everything he does. and again, in full control of what they are doing.
Advertised as a dual threat quarterback, fair to say maybe a little bigger threat with the legs than with the arm?
Well, I think so. They have really big wide receivers. Now, they're also been hurt at their skill positions. Aronde Gaston was all ACC last year. He's in that Bryson Nesbitt type of tight end, like more of a receiver than a tight end, but can really create some matchup issues because of his athleticism and size. And he's hurt out for the year. So that hurt them. I think he was one of their best guys, if not their best guy, on the offensive side. But, Adam, you look at the heights of these receivers. Damian Alford is 6'6". Umari Hatcher is 6'3". Darrell Gill is 6'3". DeMarcus Adams they have listed at 6 feet. Donovan Brown at 6'1". Kendall Long at 6'2". These are taller receivers. Even in the slot guys, they have tall guys. And they use that height. They really showed it off against Army, where they finally realized they could just throw it up to these guys, and they were bigger and faster than the Army guys, and they could just go catch it. So they do use those big receivers to their advantage. They have also another injury, Isaiah Jones, who's a good player, 6'4", another tall receiver. He had 8 catches through the first 2 games plus couple of possessions against Purdue. Then he got hurt. Don't know if he's available. Dino Babers is very, very tight-lipped with injuries. But Jones has been injured as well. They have another player, Trevor Pena, who has only played a very small amount, another wide receiver who's been banged up. So they're not at full strength, my point here. Schrader can throw it, and he is accurate, although he was less accurate against Clemson, and that hurt them. I think his best attribute is running the football, though. And he's the guy, Adam, that it's 3rd and 9, and you do everything right, and he gets out of the pocket and runs for 9.5 yards and gets the first down, and the drive continues. He does that all the time. And that can just break your spirit at some point as a defense. And so this is a challenge for Carolina defensively. And they got a good back, too. LaQuinn Allen's a good player. They like to throw to him out of the backfield. He had 6 catches in the bowl game last year. He had 6 catches against Clemson last week. And he's good. When he gets out in space, he's good. So they have some pieces. And Dino Babers wants to go fast. They still like that really quick tempo. It was a big benefit for them in the comeback against Army. So they're this will be, I'm trying to think, I think it's the best offense Carolina's seen to this point. It won't be, in my opinion, the best offense they see all year, but I think it's probably the best offense they've seen to this point.
I think if you have a question, like Jones has mentioned almost every area on the field offensively other than the offensive line, which I would say might be the question mark.
Yeah.
He's having to run around for a reason in some cases. And if the Tar Heels are able to get some pressure and force him to maybe make some hurried throws rather than just lob it up to the big tall guys, then I think you've got a chance to make him make some mistakes, because that has been their undoing when they haven't been good.
Yeah, they've had some guys banged up on that O-line. One of their starters at tackle was hurt in the preseason and is out for the year. So they have had some moving parts. Tar Heels have had some moving parts, though, on the offensive line. So offensively, good team. Defensively, Adam, you've got Rocky long-time coach. I mean, he's in his 70s. Funny story from Monday at Mac Brown Live. This was off the air. We were in the commercial break before we were going to talk about Syracuse at the end of the show. And I said something to Coach about, they're better defensively, and Rocky Long. And Coach Brown was like, oh, man, Rocky Long, he's like, he's been in this forever. He's been a long-time coach. He was like, he's got to be, I think he's in his upper 70s. He was like, let me look. So he gets his phone, and he Googled, he goes to Wikipedia, and there's Rocky Long. And he goes, no, he's a young man, 72 years old. Because that's, of course, how old Mac Brown is. So I thought that was funny. Rocky Long has mostly been a West Coast guy his whole career. And I mentioned this on Tuesday's show. He was the head coach at San Diego State for a long time, including when the Aztecs came to Kenan Stadium. a couple years ago and took that last-second interception by Tim Scott for the Tar Heels to win the game. But, I mean, Rocky Long's been head coach or defensive coordinator forever, Adam. Head coach at New Mexico and San Diego State, defensive coordinator at Wyoming, Oregon State, UCLA, San Diego State, and New Mexico. So, I mean, this is an unusual location for him to be. His whole career has been out west. But if you have ever seen his teams play, they are very similar. They run the 3-3-5, and their whole deal is to confuse you up front with pressure from different places and make you make mistakes. And so that's what Carolina has to do, is it has to avoid that confusion. It has to avoid panic up front and protect Drake May, because then you have some chances. You have some opportunities because of how aggressive they are. You're going to get some chances in the pass game. You're going to get some chances to break one in the run game if you hit it right from where they're blitzing from. So it just will take a little bit of patience and a little bit of composure. And, of course, you have to play well. I mean, you have to be able – Drake May can't have dudes running at him, and he has a second and a half to throw the ball every single time. And Syracuse's numbers – they already have 11 turnovers forced. Now, they've played one more game than the Tar Heels, but so you're looking at an average of more than 2 per game. That includes 6 interceptions in 5 games. And they sacked the quarterback a bunch. They already have 16 sacks on the year. So those 2 stats should show you that they are achieving what they want to achieve. Now, they achieved a lot of that against inferior opponents. But they have a very definitive plan of how they like to play. I thought Cade Klubnik from Clemson last week, and I haven't seen every snap of every play of Cade. I saw enough of Cade Klubnik last year in the ACC championship game. I thought he played really well, and he, on the move, made some big throws. And I think you're going to have to see Drake May do some stuff like that. He's going to have to be on the move some. He's going to have to be accurate on the move. Good news is he's really good at that. But I thought Cade Klubnik did a good job at stuff like that. Clemson converted some third downs to keep drives going, which is something Carolina's been good at. So I think if Carolina is just Carolina and what it's been doing offensively, it'll be okay. But it does have to have some composure up front to not allow all the movement and pressure bother you.
In general, I think if you were designing a quarterback to defeat a Rocky Long system,
or any system, you'd pick Drake May.
Probably come up with Drake May. Not going to get flustered, smart, can diagnose some things, is able to change his plan on a moment's notice, which you'll hear him talk about. So I think you probably feel good about that. They have had a ton of tackles for loss. They even had a ton of tackles for loss against Clemson.
Yeah.
And so at some point they're going to put you in 2nd and 17. And so how do you do you get desperate to work your way out of that, or do you methodically say, I'll take 8 yards here, 9 yards on the next one, then keep moving down the field? I think Carolina's capable of doing that.
Just one thing to keep in mind, their punt returner is crazy. Like, he will field punts. I'm 99% sure it is DeMarcus Adams. He will field punts he has no business fielding, or he won't fair catch when he should fair catch. And that can go both ways. There have been some times where he has been able to break a long play, and then there's been some moments that have been a little questionable for him. So, I mean, I can't imagine the Tar Heels would ever have to punt in a game. But if they do, just keep that in mind. Anything could happen with that dude back there returning punts if they keep him back there. They've had a couple other guys every now and then, but if he's back there, Adams, I think he's 85. If he's back there, just buckle up. Anything could happen.
Nudge the person next to you and go, watch this, something's about to happen.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, insane stuff. So, the like charging up 20 yards and diving to make a catch, fair catching it at like the 3. I mean, anything could happen. So just be ready for that. Adam, anything else on this game? I mean, I think when you're coming out of an open date, you never really know how the beginning of the game is going to go. Mac Brown has said that he felt like Carolina practiced really, really well. He told the story on Monday during the radio show. I think he told it during the press conference too, of, he kind of was joking, but not really, that he had gone to practice ready to scream and yell during the open date, and that he felt like he was going to need to get everybody going, and that he never had to do that, that it was the best open date practice week that his team had. That's good. And I think it just speaks to the veteran nature of this team. This is an older team. There are some young guys. You know, Diego Pound's a young guy playing on the O-line. There's some young receivers. The corners are young. But in general, this is an experienced group. And you would hope that they lean on some experiences in the past to help clean up details that allow you to don't go 9-1 to 9-5. That instead you finish better than that. And so I will be interested to see how Carolina comes out. I feel like Carolina is confident right now and playing well, but they're going to have to. I mean, these next 8 weeks are not easy, and that starts tomorrow.
You also hope you come out of the bye week a little healthier than you went into it.
Yeah, that guard position is important.
Somebody like Willie Lampkin, if he can come back and be ready to go, that makes the Tar Heels better and better equipped to handle this type of defense.
Yeah, I think you've seen the effect of Montelis, Adorno, and Lampkin not being 100% and Lampkin not being able to play the last couple games. I think you've seen that in Carolina's inability to run as well as it would like to, and some of the pressure. Now, Pitt's really good at sacking the quarterback, but they got 5 of them against Carolina, and so which was by far the most. I think that's more than Carolina had allowed the whole year before that. So I think you have seen the effect of some of that lack of health. Luckily, knock on wood, not a long-term deal, but that guard position has been a little less productive than I think the Tar Heels feel like it will be. Let's see. 3:30. We're on the air at 2:30. Brian Simmons back. He'll be back in the booth with us coming up. Looking forward to it. Should be a big game. Yeah, well, I know it's a big game. Should be a fun game.
Brandon Spoon said he's happy to be on the watch list.
Yeah.
Ready to go anytime.
Dude, we're
needed.
building our depth.
Yeah.
That's what good programs do, Adam. You
That's
build
right.
your depth. We have Brian Simmons
Yeah.
and Joe Yock and Brandon Spoon. We can go any crazy directions.
You redshirt guys let them develop.
Yeah.
Then they're older than the other analysts.
Yeah.
And they're able to use their wily experience.
Yeah, we're like Wake Forest.
to
We're gonna
outfox
have,
them.
Yeah, we're going to have like 7th-year guys out
Yeah.
there at every position.
Everybody else got a rookie analyst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Tar Heels 4-0, looking to go 5-0. Ranked 14th in the country. Adam, this is the last thing I'm going to say. Not forever, but on this topic right now. I feel like Mac Brown knows he's got a chance with this team. Just like the way he acts and the things he says, they're not there yet. But I think he understands they have a chance to have a special year. It's not every day that it's almost never that you have a Hall of Fame head coach and you have Drake May, our guest coming up in a few minutes. You have a defense that is better, that's coming into its own, that's old. You've got good skill guys. I mean, you got a stud at running back. It's just, I think he knows they have a chance. But they got to get better. They're not there. But I think they have a chance to be really, really good.